Ladies and gentlemen, it is safe to say that Wuthering Waves has bombarded us with some news regarding the newest character. I'm not really able to put a name on it, but I guess Kuro Games has. There's a completely new character who hasn't been marketed at all before, arriving in the second half of version 2.6, and I guess she's going to be Iuno. And Kuro Games has taken a bit of a different marketing approach when it comes to this unit, because they did absolutely no advertising for her. I don't think anyone knew that she was coming out, and then they just dropped all these details. Like, she's got her combat showcase, she's got like her weapon, all of that. Absolutely insane. So why don't we go ahead, start reacting to it piece by piece. We got the combat showcase over here. We're gonna take a look at that and then just figure out what the hell her kit is actually gonna do, because of course we know nothing about her. So without further ado, let's go ahead, let's get right on into it. Okay. All right. I'm just gonna be honest. What are these guys doing? This is like, this character is like what Seed and ZZZ was meant to be. Yeah, I'm just gonna be real. This character is what Seed from Zenless Zone Zero, the other like foot character, this is, Iuno is what Seed was supposed to be. What? Oh, goodness gracious. Oh my god. Okay, well, we clearly know what the focus of this combat showcase actually is, and I'm just gonna be real. The focus over here is not combat. Wuthering Waves, Kuro Games, combat showcase is the wrong title to be putting over here. That's a lie. I mean, obviously, right? I mean, obviously, that was like that was absolutely an insane intro. Like I've always said before, the whole like 2D to 2D transition that Kuro always does, you know, they go from like straight up anime style over here. I mean, let's just be honest, aside from like the obvious Gooner implications, this was very well animated. I know you probably aren't taking my words particularly seriously, but I'm just trying to tell you, this was very well animated from like the 2D anime style side. And I'm also going to be real here. This might be one of like the best arts they've ever fucking done. Like, just straight up. Like, look at this. This is actually what I want to do a comparison with. I'm going to do a comparison of Woo-Wah to Woo-Wah. Look at that 2D art compared to the fucking Augusta one. And you'll just be like, wait. Huh? Look over here, right? Dog shit. Dog shit. This doesn't even, like, look like Augusta, right? Like, the face just looks like, what the hell even is going on over here? She don't even look like that in game. Then you got... What? Look at this. Look at the difference. This one is so much better. It's absolutely unreal. Holy. Anyways, glad that they're leveling up. Glad that they're leveling up when it comes to like this sort of stuff. Like I said before, this is like one of the best, if not like the best 2D live art they've ever done for a unit before. Holy moly.
I am the moon that never falls, here to rewrite the ending.
All right, now let's see what her kit is looking like. There we go. We got the melee moveset. All right, when's she gonna go into Archer mode? When is she going Ishtar mode? They spent a lot of time on, like, I'm just gonna be real here. Knowing parts of her kit, this is like the part of her moveset that she's gonna be using, like, the least. So, yeah, they spent a good chunk on it. I'm just waiting to see when she gets into, like, sniping mode. Oh my goodness. There we go. Huh? Is this is not a combat showcase. They don't do this in combat showcases. What the hell? You know what I'm just gonna be upfront about one thing here. This branding that Wuthering Waves has done with like the Hassett mark that, you know, obviously they just take like this shape and then they put it with like a bunch of different colors. It shows up in like Forlova's kit animations and stuff like that too. This to me has to be now one of the most like iconic pieces of branding for Wuthering Waves. I think right now you see this and you'll like know what game this is from. You'll like know what this is. And I'm very glad that Kuro has like been able to like build up just like the branding and like the significance of this over the course of the game. Like this is now iconic. It is now like fucking iconic whenever you see some shit like this. I feel like I just need to see this again. I feel like I need to see this whole transition again. This is gonna go into a liberation probably. Of course. That attack has so much impact. Oh, hey, is this fucking Arknight's Enfield? What's going on over here, buddy boy? Huh? Oh, look.
Flames.
We got a whole 30 seconds extra? We got a whole 30 seconds extra. What the hell?
The fate lit long ago. A priestess born in a lunar eclipse.
Oh, she got an actual bow too?
To anchor the future of September. From that moment on, the life of Iuno was thus ordained.
Well, that was cryptic as shit. Whatever the hell that ending was. So I guess we'll find out when it comes to like her Resonator showcase, what the context of that actually is. All we know is Iuno has actually deleted herself from the universe, or at least Rover's the only one that actually knows who she is following the events of the 2.6 story. So, yes, it's we were playing in on that joke all the time. Anyways, that's gonna be the combat showcase. That's one of the best ones I think I've ever seen in the history of the game. Kuro Games really went all out for whatever the hell that one was. Good shit. Now, let's go ahead, let's get on into her profile reveal and start taking a bit of a look at what is going on over here. And so, the thing is, when it comes to Iuno, we actually know a fair amount about her already because her kit's already in the game. But I'm waiting to look and see if, you know, when we line it up to the animations that are going to be popping up, or if there are any new details that have actually been added with her release. So yeah, we got the Iuno, you know, the prodigy born under the lunar eclipse, blah, blah, blah. We know all about her. She can see the future. Good stuff. Let's start breaking down some of the details that are going to be on here. All right, so Iuno is, of course, going to be an Arrow Gauntlet user. She's going to have these mats available for her Ascension. Silver Glow Bloom. I think you can gather these. I'm not super sure. Maybe I should just look and see. Like, can you even gather those right now? You have to be able to. You can pre-farm those. Where do you gather them, though? I feel like I haven't picked a single one up. Oh, no, I've got them. I've got them. Yeah, and you can collect them everywhere in the new regions. So, yeah, no issues at all. No issues at all farming these. Yeah, you can also buy them from the shop too. So, that's good. This Abyssal Husk is going to be from the Lady of the Sea boss. So you're going to need 46 of these bad boys if you're trying to take her up to level 90. That boss is available in the Septimont Arena after the 2.5 quest or 2.4 quest. Then you're going to have for the skill upgrade mats, of course, you're going to be using Hecate's mats. So if you're doing weekly bosses, make sure you're doing Hecate if you're trying to go ahead and actually farm for Iuno. This might come as a surprise knowing that this is like the 2.0 introductory weekly boss. But yeah, we're going all the way back there for this one. So yeah. Shouldn't be too much of a concern there either for Iuno builders. Aside from that, the other mats are just vanilla as always. We always use these same ones. Her combat roles are going to be, and this might be a little bit surprising to some people that haven't been keeping up, she's a support and healer. She also has very good Concerto efficiency, rotates fast, deals resonance liberation damage, and then also has heavy attack damage amp built into her kit. So she is a crazy all-rounder that does, I'm just gonna be honest here, a lot of fucking stuff. So let's go ahead, let's start breaking it all down. We're gonna be starting off with the shortened version of her kit overview. You're gonna see that the explanations are very basic over here. Then we'll go into a bit more of an in-depth breakdown of, you know, all the specifics behind the abilities down here. So without further ado, let's go ahead, let's get right on into the normal attack and take a look at what Kuro Games has ready for us. So let me just not zoom in too much over here so we can actually see the animations that are playing out. So Yuno's first gonna have regular attacks with the moon ring, and these are just the attacks over here that are playing, where she twirls around, does like some dancer moves, and hits the enemy. She's also gonna have her midair attack, which just plunges down while also in the melee state, and I think that's demonstrated over there. She's also gonna have moonbow attacks, which are showing up on the screen right now, and that's when she starts riding around on the bow and fires arrows at the enemies. And the way that she enters into this state is by using a special heavy attack. We'll read more about that later. Now we've got her resonance skill. So the first cast of it is just going to deal arrow damage. She's going to have some other casts of it as well that are available as she does parts of her basic attack chain. And that's going to be closing, refrain. And so you can see over here, after number 3 of her basic, after her intro skill, or after Pulse of Origins, which is her regular resonance skill, she gains a second cast that goes ahead and activates this thing called the Lunar Cycle. While she's in the Lunar Cycle, she gains even more resonance skills. So the main thing to focus on over here is that Iuno has 3 resonance skills built into her kit. Yes, she has, honestly, she has 4 if we're going to look at it that way. She's got the first one, she's got a follow-up one, she's got another follow-up one, and then a third follow-up one. And the availability of all these different skills basically depends on where you are in this mechanic called the Lunar Cycle. And so naturally, right, we don't know what the hell that is just looking at it sequentially, so we'll figure it out later on when we get to her Forte circuit. You'll see that Forte circuit fuels basically every single interaction in this kit. Now, let's get on into the Liberation, and of course, this is the attack where she gets that glowing little marble off her foot and then absolutely charges up one of the most powerful shots in gacha gaming history. Yeah, that just deals arrow damage and activates the Lunar Cycle. You'll notice she's got 2 ways to activate the Lunar Cycle in her kit. She's got her Liberation, and then she's also got, well, that second enhanced skill. Or really, the first enhanced skill. This one's the second, this one's the third, which, as we said, activates in a variety of different ways. Now, let's get into an explanation of what the hell this Lunar Cycle actually is, right? We've seen that a lot of these abilities are about entering it. They're all about, going from half moon to new moon to full moon, all of that. So, what the hell does it all even mean? All right, Iuno can activate the Lunar Cycle by casting her second resonance skill, or her resonance liberation. It's got 2 states, half moon and new moon. We've already seen those. She gets different resonance skills based on that. Iuno switches between the 2 states when she jumps. So when she's in half moon, she can attack with the moon ring and restore this resource called sentience. When she's in the new moon state, she attacks with the bow, and that's basically when she's firing off all those shots. And so you can see over here, right? Well, that's the difference between the 2 over here. Is that she's got the basic attacks that are in the half moon state and then the basic attacks in the full moon state, which are those air shots. Anyways, moving on. When she's in the moonbow state, she consumes the sentience that she restored in the half moon state, the melee mode, and that's going to increase the damage of her basic attack shots. They're also going to restore additional Concerto energy, and she's also going to heal people on the team. Yes, this Lunar Cycle in the new moon state, when she's firing off air shots, is when she is healing her teammates. You would notice that there's not really any other healing located anywhere else in her kit. Next up, she's going to have a heavy attack called Absolute Fullness. And so when her Concerto energy is full, her heavy attack is replaced with this additional one. And using Absolute Fullness is also going to heal nearby teammates. It's going to deal arrow damage and then conjure this thing called the Full Moon Domain. And Resonators, when they're inside the Full Moon Domain, they're going to periodically gain HP and stamina. And then when you gain a shield inside the domain, well, you're going to gain 1 stack of this thing called Blessing of Wan Light, which is going to give you 4% damage amp to everything and stack up to 40 times. And the unfortunate part about this whole Blessing of Wan Light is that it's clearly especially tailored to one unit in particular. That unit is Augusta, because there's really no other character in the game that's able to readily apply shields at that frequent of a pace. The moon domain that Iuno summons does last 30 seconds, but it's clearly, when you see how Augusta can stack up a shield every 0.5 seconds, well, it's mainly meant for her to take advantage of it. Do recall that this Absolute Fullness, the moon domain, it can only be triggered when Iuno's Concerto is full. It has to be full for it to work. She does this typically at the end of her rotation, and then you would swap over to Augusta and go have some fun. The thing is, it's like people might look at this and be like, okay, clearly this character can only support Augusta, right? They might be like, okay, this character clearly is meant to take this character and take them to the max. Iuno is not really an attack buffer. You're going to notice she doesn't really have attack buffs built into her kit. So this is the main damage amp that she has, balanced off with some healing. And the thing is, when you're playing the Augusta team, do keep in mind, guys, Augusta is typically ran with a shorekeeper. So you can think about it this way. The healing for Augusta's team, when Iuno's on it, this healing part over here, and then this healing part over here is essentially fucking useless. Because you're already going to have shorekeeper on the team. That's basically going to be the best in slot. And so the end result is that whatever team you end up putting Iuno on, part of her buffs or her party supporting ability is going to be useless. The healing is worthless with the Augusta team. And unfortunately, the Blessing of Wand Light doesn't activate on other teams. But those other teams that don't use the Blessing of Wand Light can oftentimes really use her healing. So we'll talk about that a bit later on. We've had some previous videos on the topic, but just another disclaimer over here, just in case there are some people thinking, oh, she's like only usable with Augusta. Because believe me when I say this, she's not. And the healing that she provides is a very unique differentiator that allows her to become, in my opinion, one of the most flexible units in the game. So let's just go ahead. Let's keep moving on forward and let's read off Sentience. So she restores Sentience, right, by using a bunch of different abilities. Intro skill, Liberation, Closing Refrain, Unfinished Refrain. Those are the enhanced resonance skills that she has over there. And whenever she hits a target in the half moon or melee state, she restores Sentience. And once again, that Sentience is used in the new moon state with the moon bow that she shoots with her feet to deal additional damage, heal people, and generate more Concerto. Now let's go over here. All right, wait, quick question from chat. This team should be Augusta, Iuno, and Mortefi. So if you're saying the team should be Augusta, Iuno, and Mortefi, you unfortunately don't really know how to play the game because outro skill buffs don't stack. And you only have Iuno's or Mortefi's skill active at one time. And so the only outro skill buffs that stack in the game are like the ones from Shorekeeper, Verena, so on and so forth. So that's why you put them on the team. Just so you know, that's why the healing isn't that good on the Augusta team, because you would use a healer instead for their stacking outro. I don't even know why I'm explaining this. We're 2 years into the release of the game, or sorry, 1.5 years into the release. Anyways, let's keep moving on. We've got the intro skill over here. Yeah, so it would maybe make more sense if we wanted to add some additional clarification to the ability. This will also restore sentience. And this will also advance, or this will also make her enhanced resonance skill available that allows her to enter the lunar cycle. So it does more than just deal damage, okay? It restores the sentience over here, and then it also, right over here, it lets her use closing refrain, okay? And that's going to activate the lunar cycle in the air and the moonbow shots. So it does more than this. I assure you, dear reader, or dear viewer, it does more than this. All right, now we got the outro skill. This looks so stupid. Anyways, now we got the outro skill. From Gloom to Gleam. Deal 100% arrow damage, very small amount. The real bonus from the outro skill is here. The incoming resonator gains a 50% heavy attack damage amplification. The effect ends early if they're switched off field, and this is probably going to last 14 seconds. Actually, I can confirm that it lasts 14 seconds because her kit is actually available in game. So yeah, it's going to be lasting 14 seconds. The most damage amp in the game, actually more than any other sub DPS. And that means, guys, basically she provides she provides the biggest outro skill buff in the game and also has healing. So you can use her effectively on any heavy attack team in the game, and there are a lot of teams that can use her. Think about Zani and Phoebe. You run Shorekeeper on that team, or Spectral Rover, right? What if you could run Iuno with her damage amp? Because guess what, guys? You want to know something special about Phoebe's outro skill when she's in confession mode? It doesn't expire on swap. So you can stack up Phoebe's outro skill with Iuno's outro skill and give all of those buffs to Zani, and then the team will have healing as well, because Phoebe doesn't have healing, Zani doesn't have healing, and one of the difficult parts about using that team with Mortefi is the fact that it has no healing. But now you have a healer that can make this team kind of shine a little bit more. Just something to keep in mind over there. That's what I mean by potential use cases of this unit, and why that healing on her Forte is such a big differentiator. Now we got the combat guide. She deals high resonance liberation damage, heals resonators on the team, and grants damage amplification to resonators who gain a shield. Also has her outro skill bonus. She consumes Forte to boost damage output and gain more Concerto. Honestly, she has a very simple kit. Her outro skill is going to amplify the incoming resonator's heavy attack damage. When she's in Lunar Cycle, Half Moon, melee mode, her attacks recover her Forte. When she's in New Moon, well, her attacks are gonna consume the Forte, and when Concerto is full, she can use a special heavy attack that makes the domain that heals people, and then applies the Blessing of One Light buff. Her kit is actually pretty simple to understand. I hope you guys are beginning to see it here. And you'll notice, right, that even when we get into the expanded, the more detailed skills down here, not really too much actually changes. So let's keep reading. Moonring basic attack. She's gonna have a 3-hit attack chain in the melee mode. She's also gonna have a plunging attack available in the melee mode. She's gonna have a dodge counter that's going to advance her basic attack chain from the 3rd step if she activates it. Very, very simple stuff. Pretty much in line with almost every other kit in the game. So, she's also going to have the Moonbow basic attack. We've already talked about how you can do this. It's just going to be a 3-hit attack chain. And these hits with the Moonbow, this is important, they're going to deal Resonance Liberation damage. And it's very easy for her to enter this Lunar Cycle state. This Moonbow attack can also be used in midair, and pretty much I thought she was in midair, but I guess she can still technically be on ground level. I guess she can still actually be on ground level while she's doing these Moonbow attacks. Kind of like how Camellia can press E, but still be considered on the ground and regenerate stamina. But you can probably like rise up higher, gain some mobility, much like how Camellia can as well. Just something to keep in mind, because stamina consumption does not occur if you're technically on the ground. So I think that differentiation is in there for that purpose. She's also going to have dodge counters available while she's in the Moonbow state. These are basically also going to advance her basic attack chain as well, all the way up to stage 3, and is going to be considered liberation damage too. Nothing too crazy over here. Now we've got all the different resonance skills that she has available. The first one, Pulse of Origins, is literally just like, it's like Cantarella. It's like a bunch of other skills in the game where they have an enhanced version, so the baseline one is very basic. This just dashes and deals damage. However, she does gain a lot of the enhanced ones, and this is what we talked about before. So when she's not in the Lunar Cycle, this ability, Closing Refrain, the first resonance skill, is going to, well, go ahead and activate the Lunar Cycle. And it's going to become available for 5 seconds anytime she uses any of these abilities. The regular resonance skill, the 3rd hit of her basic, or of course, her intro skill. And casting Closing Refrain unleashes a flurry of strikes, deals arrow damage, and then gets her into the Lunar Cycle. Very simple stuff. Unfinished Refrain over here. When Iuno is in the Half Moon cycle, melee mode, she gains Unfinished Refrain. And this is going to go ahead, deal damage, and you can clearly see over here, it's almost the same exact ability as the Closing Refrain. She's also going to have Arc Beyond the Edge, and that is when she is in the New Moon state. And this ability is actually going to have 2 charges. So she has a lot of resonance skills available. And this is something important to keep in mind, right? Because she's a gauntlet user, right? She's a resonance liberation damage user, and she has multiple casts of a resonance skill. And so this is a bit of a teaser for the weapon video, a bit of a reward for some of those who are, you know, this deep in. You get a bit of a bonus. Verity's handle is essentially going to work on her perfectly, because, well, she uses her liberation to enter the Lunar Cycle, and then she can spam resonance skills to keep the effect active. That's just a bit of a preview over there. With 2 charges on here, a cast of it available here, and then like 300 different attacks that she can use, you're not gonna be lacking on resonance skills to use to activate and extend the duration of that buff. Just something to keep in mind for all of y'all. All right, so that's gonna have 2 charges, and whenever she uses this, she's gonna dash, deal arrow damage, that's liberation damage. She's also able to use directional inputs to increase the travel distance, and well, I mean, that's it. It's gonna be a dash that deals damage. That's pretty good. She's got 2 charges. She's gonna be very mobile on the battlefield. Awesome stuff. Next up, she's gonna have her liberation. And believe me when I said this, guys, I said her kit was simple for a reason. Because even in the detailed explanation, it's her liberation is literally the same as, I think, the simplified one. She just deals a burst of damage and then activates the Lunar Cycle state. That's it. That is all she does with her liberation. So yeah, most of the important stuff is going to be her Forte. So let's read if there are any more specific details regarding this Lunar Cycle. Iuno can activate Lunar Cycle by casting the resonance skill Closing Refrain or her liberation. She's got 2 states, Half Moon, New Moon. Half Moon is the melee mode that generates sentience. New Moon is the Moonbow mode that consumes sentience. So she's got those 2 states, and she can basically switch between the two by using a special heavy attack called Flux. So when she's in the lunar cycle, her jump attack is replaced with Flux. Stamina won't recover while Iuno's in the air. Her movement will then become meandering, which I think that's a new fucking term, but basically it consumes stamina while you're in midair to move in a unique manner. I don't really know. I can understand slightly what they're trying to say here, but like this just comes off as slightly strange wording. Performing environmental interactions using utilities or holding jump will end the lunar cycle. So yeah, she basically gets to switch between the two states by using heavy attack Flux, and that allows her, if she's looking to like maximize the use of her resonance skills, do remember, right, she needs to be in separate forms or different forms to be able to actually use all the different resonance skills. So that is something to keep in mind, especially if you're thinking about doing something like maybe main DPSing her. So let's read about Half Moon a little bit more specifically. Iuno attacks using the Moon Ring, restores sentience. She can use heavy attack Flux to deal arrow damage, that's considered liberation damage, and switch to the new moon mode, which is the range mode. And when she's in the range mode, Iuno attacks using the moon bow. And while in this state, using her basic attack, her resonance skill Arc Beyond the Edge, the one with 2 charges that dashes around, or using her dodge counter is going to consume sentience to increase the damage multiplier of the ability. Very important here, increase the damage multiplier of the ability. So you want to use these sentient stacks with probably the hit that deals the most damage in her kit. She's also going to restore additional Concerto energy and heal nearby people on the team. And she's going to have access to that same heavy attack Flux and switch back to the Moon Ring, the melee state, by using the jump attack. So yeah, we're then going to have the heavy attack Absolute Fullness. Like we've said before, this activates when her Concerto is full. You get a new heavy attack. This ends the lunar cycle, provides more additional healing in the field. It's going to deal arrow damage. That's also considered liberation. Basically, all of her damage is considered liberation, aside from, I think, her Moon Ring attacks. And then she's going to conjure up that full Moon Domain. And this is going to periodically restore that HP and stamina. First stamina restorer in the game while off field, actually. And then we're going to go ahead and be able to generate those Blessing of Wand light stacks only when you can reapply a shield to yourself repeatedly. And once again, Augusta's pretty much going to be the only character in the game that can meaningfully stack this up. Characters like Tao Chi and John Shin can get a couple of stacks, but not really. They'll probably have like, John Shin might have like 5, Tao Chi's going to have like 3. And that's just not really that good. Because they're not really DPS characters anyways. They can't really benefit from this anyways. All right, so let's read a little bit more about sentience. Iuno can hold up to 100 points. Her intro skill gives you 40, and her liberation restores 60. So yeah, it's kind of just like she has sentience generation on her other abilities, but just using an intro skill and a liberation will basically just cap you out. And then you'll be in like Moon Ring mode, and then you'll just, I mean, let's just be honest here. You're just going to be consuming all of it. So she does have a bunch of other abilities like Closing Refrain, Unfinished Refrain, her melee attack resonance skills that can restore the sentience. And then when she's in the lunar cycle, right, all those attacks, her basic, her dodge counter, her midair attack, and actually her resonance skills, those are all consume the sentience when she's in the moonbow state. And then when she's in the moon ring state, all of these basic attacks are going to restore sentience. So she's got like a way to like funnel her resources, but she already gains a fuck ton just from like her intro and her liberation. So you could probably do some spicy stuff as like a main DPS to like probably just intro skill in, liberation, you know, fire off all the shots, then go back to melee mode, do all of these resonance skills, and then gain up another 100 sentience, go back to moonbow mode, and then fire off more shots. You might be able to get like 2 full sentience rotations in by the time like maybe 14 seconds a sub DPS buffer like Mortife's duration expires. So something to keep in mind. We might experiment with it on her release, but obviously, right, we don't actually have our hands on her yet. Going further with the detailed kit overview, we've got her intro skill, and it's just as short as the other intro skill. It just deals arrow damage. Once again, there's a lot of other abilities that rely on this. You could chain together some stuff. This just looks embarrassing. One thing that I feel like Kuro Games should do is that if it's clear that intro skills interact with other parts of a character's kit, like you can see over here, her intro skill restores 40 points of sentience. I feel like it should be in the intro skill, how it interacts with other abilities. That's just my personal take to help, you know, players like understand. Maybe it shows up as like a pop-up in game where you can like hover over it and get additional details, because this makes it look like it literally does nothing when it does stuff. it does a lot, actually. So, yeah. That's just like my disclaimer, my suggestion for Kuro games moving forward. Now let's get on into the outro skill. So once again, it's a 14-second outro skill, deals a burst of damage, not really a burst. This is not really even damage at all, if I'm frankly being honest. And then you gain a 50% heavy attack damage amp. And the nice thing about her outro skill is that using it won't interrupt her special heavy attack. And you can go ahead, start casting Absolute Fullness, and then swap to another teammate. And remember, Absolute Fullness is only available at full Concerto energy, so it's a little bit like Rover's Resonance skill. You can start casting it, swap, and it'll... I mean, that would work with any ability in the game regardless. I don't know why they're specifically saying it here, because I'm pretty sure you can just do this with almost any character in the game except Phoebe, because I think Phoebe's like one of the only ones that has like a unique outro skill animation. So yeah, this line over here is a little bit interesting, but maybe there's actually some more stuff going on. And now let's start reading her inherent skills. And this is where stuff's going to get a little bit interesting. Every time Iuno casts a basic attack, heavy attack, dodge counter, or resonance skill, let me just correct this. When Iuno does anything, when Iuno uses any attack, she gains a shield equal to 32% of her attack for 15 seconds. The shield will not be passed on to the incoming resonator. So you're noticing, right? She basically has no cooldown on her shield generation. And that means Iuno is also going to be able to benefit from her Blessing of Wan Light. The unfortunate thing, though, is that, yes, while Iuno is able to benefit from this buff, you would realize this can only trigger at the end of her rotation. Yes, she requires full Concerto to even conjure the full moon domain. And, well, she needs to use this attack. It's only available at full Concerto. So Iuno has basically fully exhausted her entire rotation, done all of her damaging abilities, and I mean, yes, she will generate the buff, but do realize you have to gain a shield inside the domain. She triggers this at the end of her rotation, and so she would basically have to extend it and then attack with 10 abilities to cap out the buff. I don't really see a universe, maybe I'm just like tripping, but it seems really hard for Iuno to gain any benefit out of this at all, unless she's being played as a main DPS. And even if she's being played as a main DPS, you'd have to like max out her Concerto, then swap to somebody else, then give her an outro skill, then swap back to her, and then kind of like you can kind of see where it doesn't make that much sense. If Iuno summoned the full moon domain at the start of her rotation, and then she went through, rotated through all her abilities, and then was building up her shield, and then she has the outro skill, or then she has the damage amp, that would make more sense that she's benefiting from her buff. But when this full moon domain can only be activated after she's run through her entire rotation and is at full Concerto, well, guys, I understand that she builds up her own shield. I understand that she builds up her own shield and can theoretically activate her own buff. I just don't see how in a practical use case that will be happening unless you're artificially extending her rotation time or honestly doing some crazy shit with how you're swapping out through your team. That's just my take. And once again, it's pre-release. Maybe it works out a lot more differently, but that's my take for people that are like thinking about main DPS. Just think logically about how she's even going to leverage this buff in the first place when she needs to use her entire kit to activate it in the first place. Anyways, next up, inherent skill, derivation. When Iuno casts intro skill or resonance liberation, she immediately gains 5 stacks of Blessing of Wan Light. So this is what I mean by Iuno shielding isn't actually related to her buffs. She just gets Blessing of Wan Light. So this whole shielding factor that she has is completely detached from the buffs on her kit. That is how the character works. This shield over here effectively does not matter at all when it comes to her interaction with the domain because she just gains the buff separately. So she is able to benefit from the Blessing of Wan Light, but not in the way that a lot of people are thinking when she's generating these shields. This shield over here that she has available in her kit is only used for one thing in the game. And let me show you all. It's going to be used for activating the effect on her weapon that allows her to start ignoring defense. That's it. It's also only going to be used to activate Crown of Valor. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. That is all this inherent skill is supposed to be used for. Just activating her weapon and just activating Crown of Valor. It is not related at all to like the buffs that she's going to be getting because they're already built into her using an intro skill and a liberation. So that is something to keep in mind as well. You don't have to worry about stacking up the Blessing of Wand Light. Once again, for the main DPS enjoyers, she just has all of that 40% damage amp available at the beginning of her rotation. So she does benefit a shit ton from utilizing this Crown of Valor set, because let's think about it this way. This is one of the most offensive set buffs in the game, with a massive amount of attack and a massive amount of critical damage. So yeah, it's just, she's meant to use this set. She's meant to deal a decent amount of on-field damage, because she's got her own built-in 40% damage amp that doesn't rely on anything else in her kit other than using an intro skill and using a liberation, which you're effectively going to do in every single rotation anyways. So yeah, hopefully, with this in-depth overview, especially on the inherents, we've been able to sort of outline, define, and make a lot more sense out of just exactly how her kit works. I think there's a decent amount of confusion across some members of the player base for how she's going to actually function. And so I think we've gone through, we've described all the mechanics pretty well, a couple of like sample rotations, and of course, some of the specifics behind her Sonata set, so you can do some pre-farming if you haven't done so already, and of course, how she's going to interact with her other teammates. So yeah, that will be that for the entire Iuno kit overview. Let me know what you all thought, whether or not you're going to be pulling this unit, and if this breakdown was helpful for all of you. So yeah, peace out.